I never thought I'd be one of those people writing on here about betrayal, but here I am. My wife, let's call her Sarah, and I have been married for 9 years. On the surface, everything looked fine. 2 kids, a decent house in the suburbs, both of us with steady jobs. From the outside, you'd think we were the perfect little family. But looking back, I can see the cracks. Sarah has always had this sharp tongue, the type that can cut you down while making it sound like a joke. At first, I thought it was just her personality. I brushed it off, told myself she was just honest or direct. But over the years, I realized she was manipulative. If something went wrong, it was never her fault. She was a master at twisting situations until I was the one apologizing for things I didn't even do. The first real red flag came about a year ago when my younger brother, Jake, lost his apartment. Sarah was the one who suggested he move in with us, just until he got back on his feet. I hesitated. Jake and I had a complicated history. He was always the charming one, the one people naturally gravitated toward. I loved him, but I never fully trusted him. Still, Sarah pushed, saying, "He's family. We can't let him be out on the street." Against my better judgment, I agreed. At first, everything seemed normal. Jake stayed in the guest room, chipped in for groceries, and helped with the kids. But little things started to bug me. Sarah laughed at his jokes just a little too much. She'd ask me to pick up extra shifts, almost encouraging me to be out of the house more. And when I questioned it, she'd brush me off with, "You're paranoid. He's your brother. Don't be ridiculous." That's when I felt the first gut punch of suspicion. But nothing could have prepared me for what I eventually walked in on. It happened on a Tuesday. I'll never forget it because Tuesdays were usually my longest days at work. But that morning, my manager let me off early since the project wrapped up ahead of schedule. I remember actually being excited. I thought I'd surprise Sarah, maybe cook dinner for the kids, do something nice for once since I'd been buried in overtime. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Jake's car was already there. Odd since he usually worked late shifts. I didn't think too much of it until I walked inside. The house was too quiet. Not the kids are napping kind of quiet, but that heavy, suffocating silence where you just know something's off. I put my bag down and headed upstairs, and that's when I heard it. Muffled voices, a laugh I knew all too well. Sarah's laugh. I froze halfway up the stairs, my heart pounding so hard I thought it was going to break through my chest. My brain screamed, "Don't look, don't do this to yourself." But my feet kept moving. I opened the bedroom door, and there it was. My wife, the woman I had built a life with, tangled up in bed with my own brother. My brother. For a split second, I thought I was hallucinating, like my mind was playing some cruel trick on me. But then Jake jumped up, panicked, stammering my name, while Sarah just sat there, cool as a cucumber, pulling the blanket up like this was just another Tuesday. That image is seared into my brain. The betrayal, the smugness in her eyes, and the way my brother couldn't even look at me. I didn't scream. I didn't even cry. I just stood there in the doorway, feeling like the floor had been ripped out from under me. My entire reality shattered in less than 10 seconds. I don't know how long I stood there before words finally came out of my mouth. All I could manage was, "Are you serious right now?" Jake was scrambling to put his clothes back on, mumbling apologies, avoiding my eyes like a kid caught stealing cookies. But Sarah? She didn't flinch. She looked me dead in the face and said, "It's not what it looks like." I almost laughed at how absurd that was. Not what it looks like? I'd literally caught them naked in our bed. When I pressed her, she launched into this ridiculous explanation that Jake had been feeling depressed, and she was just comforting him. I wish I was joking. She had the audacity to make it sound like she was doing me a favor, helping my poor brother through a tough time. Then she flipped it on me. She said if I had been more emotionally available, if I hadn't worked so much, she wouldn't have had to seek connection elsewhere. As if her betrayal was my fault. That's the thing about Sarah. She could take a situation where she was blatantly in the wrong and twist it until somehow I was the villain. Meanwhile, Jake just kept saying, "I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean for this to happen." Over and over like some broken record. I asked her straight up, "How long?" She hesitated, then admitted it had been going on for months. Months. Right under my nose in my own house while I was working overtime to support our family. That's when the dam broke. I yelled, not just at her, but at both of them. Years of frustration, betrayal, and buried suspicions came pouring out. I kicked Jake out on the spot, told him to get his things and never set foot in my house again. Sarah didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just sat there with that same cold expression like I was the one inconveniencing her. And that hurt more than anything. The realization that she didn't even care she had destroyed me. After that day, everything felt hollow. It was like someone had taken the world I knew, crumpled it up, and tossed it in the trash. The first week was pure rage. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together in that bed. My own brother, the kid I grew up protecting, the guy I defended when he screwed up, and my wife, the person I trusted most, laughing and whispering behind my back. But the anger didn't last. Eventually, it gave way to something worse. Sadness. A bone-deep sadness that sat on my chest and made it hard to breathe. I kept asking myself the same questions over and over. Was I not enough? Did she ever really love me? Was every smile, every kiss just a lie? I'd look at my kids and feel torn apart. They're too young to understand, but I knew their world was about to change forever because of this mess. How do you explain to a child that their mom chose betrayal over family? Sarah didn't make things easier. She acted like nothing had happened. She'd still cook dinner, still text me random things during the day, like she could just sweep this under the rug. And when I didn't play along, she'd snap, accusing me of dragging things out or being dramatic. The gaslighting was insane. At one point, she even suggested I had imagined parts of it, that I misinterpreted what I saw, as if my mind had fabricated the image of her and Jake in bed. That's when it hit me how truly manipulative she was. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. My trust, my marriage, my family, all gone in a single moment. And the cruelest part? Sarah showed zero remorse. Not once did she genuinely apologize. It was during one of those nights, lying awake and staring at the ceiling, that I realized I couldn't save this. And maybe I didn't even want to. The breaking point came about 3 weeks after I caught them. I had been sleeping on the couch, barely speaking to Sarah except about the kids. I was still trying to process, trying to figure out if there was anything left to salvage. But then she showed her true colors again. One night she sat me down and, with the straightest face imaginable, told me she and Jake were serious about each other. Not only that, but they wanted me to be reasonable and consider moving out of the house so they could build a future there with the kids. I thought I misheard her. My wife, who I had built this home with, wanted me to just hand it over to her and my brother. The same people who betrayed me under this very roof. That was it. That was the moment something inside me flipped. The sadness, the fog, the endless second-guessing, it all burned away. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt clarity. I told her no. Firmly. The house was in my name, bought with my money, and there was no way in hell I was giving it up. She sneered, accused me of being selfish, said the kids needed stability and that Jake could provide it. The audacity still blows my mind. That night I called a lawyer. The next morning I filed for divorce. I also had my attorney send Jake a formal notice banning him from the property. Sarah didn't take it well. She screamed, cried, and then, in classic Sarah fashion, tried to guilt-trip me. "You're breaking up this family, not me," she said. As if her sleeping with my brother for months hadn't already done that. For once, though, I didn't bend. I didn't let her words twist my reality. I had finally reached my limit. Filing for divorce was only the start. That's when Sarah went into full attack mode. First, she tried to paint me as an absent father because of my long work hours. Her argument was that she had been the primary caregiver while I was always gone. She conveniently left out the fact that those hours were spent keeping a roof over our heads and paying for the very lifestyle she enjoyed. Then came the house. She and Jake actually tried to argue that since we were all living there as a family, the house should belong to her so the kids could stay in a stable environment. My lawyer shredded that argument in about 5 minutes flat. The mortgage, the deed, everything was in my name. It wasn't even close. But Sarah didn't stop there. She dragged me through every legal mud puddle she could find. At one point, she even tried to claim I was verbally abusive, which couldn't have been further from the truth. Luckily, I had years of texts and emails showing the opposite. Her belittling me, twisting situations, gaslighting me. The judge wasn't impressed with her performance. Jake, meanwhile, ghosted me completely. No calls, no apologies, nothing. From what I heard through family, he moved in with a friend after I banned him from the house. The same brother I grew up with was now just gone. And honestly, that hurt almost as much as losing Sarah. The worst part was watching Sarah use the kids like pawns. She'd whisper things to them like, "Daddy doesn't want to be here," or "Jake loves you too, you know." It was sickening. But I stayed calm, documented everything, and let the truth come out in court. In the end, the judge granted me primary custody with Sarah getting visitation. She kept trying to push for more, but her lies and manipulations kept catching up with her. And the house? Mine. She and Jake never got their hands on it. Still, the whole process drained me. Financially, emotionally, spiritually. It felt like I was being dismantled piece by piece. But at the same time, every small win reminded me I was stronger than they thought. Once the dust finally settled, I felt like I'd crawled out of a war zone. Divorce finalized, custody sorted, house secured. But the emotional wreckage was everywhere. For months, I'd wake up expecting another battle, another accusation, another court filing. When it didn't come, the silence felt foreign. At first, I was bitter. Every time I saw a happy couple at the store, I thought, yeah, wait until she cheats on you with your brother. It was ugly, and I hated feeling that way. But with time, therapy, and support from friends who actually showed up for me, the bitterness dulled. I started pouring my energy into my kids. They became my anchor. Bedtime stories, school projects, even just eating dinner together. Those little routines helped stitch me back together. And the crazy thing? They seemed happier once Sarah wasn't in the house full time. No more tension, no more whispered fights behind closed doors. Just peace. I also got back into hobbies I'd dropped years ago. I started running again, picked up woodworking, something I'd always wanted to try, and slowly my world began to feel bigger than just betrayal and courtrooms. Sarah still tries to stir things up occasionally. She'll send passive-aggressive texts or she'll drop some manipulative comment during kid exchanges. But here's the difference now. I don't take the bait. I document what I need to, and then I move on. Her chaos doesn't get to define my life anymore. As for Jake, I haven't spoken to him since the day I kicked him out. Word is, he and Sarah didn't even last 6 months after the divorce. Shocker, right? 2 liars couldn't build trust with each other. Honestly, I don't even care what happens to them anymore. They're just gone from my life. And you know what? I'm okay with that. For the first time in years, I actually feel like myself again. If there's one thing I've learned from this nightmare, it's that betrayal doesn't just hurt. It reshapes your entire understanding of trust, family, and yourself. I used to think I could control my life, that I could rely on the people I loved most. Turns out you can only control one thing: how you respond when that trust is broken. Here's what I tell anyone going through something similar. Trust your gut. The little red flags aren't always small. If something feels off, pay attention. I ignored mine for years because I didn't want to believe the worst. Don't make that mistake. Document everything, especially if kids, money, or property are involved. Texts, emails, voicemails, they saved me from being gaslighted completely. Set boundaries. When Sarah tried to manipulate me or drag me into fights, I learned to step back. Protect your mental space first. Don't isolate yourself. Friends, family, therapy, lean on them. Pretending everything is fine will just eat you alive. Focus on what you can control. You can't change other people's actions, but you can choose your response, your boundaries, and your future. I'll be honest, the pain never fully disappears. Some nights, memories hit like a freight train, but those moments don't define me anymore. My kids, my home, my peace of mind, those are mine to protect and cherish. If there's a silver lining in all of this, it's that I discovered my own strength. I survived one of the deepest betrayals imaginable, and I'm still standing. And more importantly, I know I'll never let anyone, not even family, take my life or my dignity for granted again.